What's up, everybody? Ramon Torres, the educator at School Your Brain, and what I want to talk to you today about is rewards. Using rewards with your students in order to get them to be more engaged. There's a right way and a wrong way. So let me explain that to you. And this is going to be coming from Karen Pryor's Don't Shoot the Dog. Really good book. Talks a lot about how to use reinforcement the right way to get more of the behaviors that you do want. I've been using her strategies for many years now. I would say probably the last 5 years probably. I've been using her strategies and I've been learning as I go, and I'm still learning from time to time. But basically the idea of reinforcement is whatever act that your student is doing. So whatever, let's say that you want your students to do more work. So while the student is doing work, your job is to figure out, how can I reinforce that behavior while it's happening? And by doing that while it's happening is going to guarantee, well, not guarantee, but it'll increase the chances that that behavior will continue in the future. And to kind of show you contrast to what I just said, think about like detentions, right? Detentions are usually given to students when they do a behavior you don't want. And the detention is not served until later on. And notice that when the detention is served later on, it's not connected to the incident at that specific moment that it happened. And that's why detentions are not likely to decrease the behavior in the future. That's why most likely those kids that get detention end up getting more and more detentions from time to time, right? They just keep getting in trouble for the same stuff. It's because the fact that the detention is occurring later on at a different moment in time and not while they're doing that behavior that you don't want them to do in the classroom, that's the reason why the detentions are not likely to decrease that behavior. So that's kind of like the contrast of what I just said before in terms of doing something while the behavior is occurring. If you reinforce it, positive reinforcement, that's going to increase the chances it'll happen again. So like detentions is kind of like the opposite of that. If there's one thing you're going to take away from this video, it's this. Timing is everything. Timing is key to making sure you reinforce behaviors you want. So if you plan on giving a kid a reward, and if that reward doesn't happen while the behavior is occurring, then they're not going to connect that reward to that behavior. So that's one thing I want to point out. Another note, anytime you're trying to reward students for a behavior that didn't occur yet, that is bribery. You're basically bribing them. Because, like for example, let's say you want students to do more work in the classroom, so you're like, okay guys, or okay students, I want you to do more work in the classroom. And if you do more work, I'm going to give you some candy, or I'll give you some points. That's not the way to do it, because you're training them to work for an extrinsic reward. That's not what's going to give you that lifelong learning, which we all strive for. In order to create intrinsic motivation, you cannot tell them that they're going to earn something ahead of time, because then you're bribing them at that point. An example of using a reward correctly would be, let's say all my students are working on a quiz or a test, and I want them to be very quiet, because sometimes they might get off task. It might take them a while to settle down. But the moment I see they're all focused, they're all working, then I can praise them all at the same time if I wanted to. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Excellent job, everybody. Everybody's focused. They're doing the work silently. And this is exactly what I want you to remember for future events. When anytime we're doing a quiz or test, this is what I want to see. So keep up the good work. You're working hard. Keep it up. Or you might be walking by kids working in pairs, and you notice that they're having a good discussion, and you just couldn't show up and be like, wow, excellent discussion, guys. Like, just acknowledge what they're doing in the moment that they're doing it. And that's how you reinforce that behavior, because while they're doing it, they're getting a good compliment and they're being praised. Let me just add one more note too before I finish this. But basically, and this is something that as I started working on these strategies in the classroom, I realized that I wasn't reinforcing the behaviors I wanted. In fact, I was reinforcing the behaviors I didn't want. And here's what I mean by that. Like, let's say the class didn't do homework. I would just bring that up as a class discussion. Like, we're not doing homework, guys. Like, we need to be doing more homework, and, and blah, blah, blah. Just, going off on a tangent on why we're not doing our homework. And basically, I'm just reinforcing a bad experience. So that's what I'm creating, a bad experience. Rather than doing that, I should have been praising the students that did do their homework. So public praise is another tip that I would recommend, is focus on what you want. Don't focus on what you don't want. Focus on what you want. It sounds counterintuitive because you think by saying, come on, we need to do our work. I don't see we're not doing any work. That actually doesn't reinforce it because it's like, that's not motivating me to do the work. So make sure you focus on what you want. And by saying, to the kids, such and such is their homework. That's what I want to see. Let's keep working hard. You're reinforcing that by praising like 1 or 2 or 3 students, and the next student might be like, man, I want to be praised. And that's why it's important. You got to make sure you praise and acknowledge the people that are working hard, because often we expect students to just do what we want, right? We want them to pay attention. We want them to do their homework. We want them to participate, but we don't really congratulate them. At least in my experience, it feels like we tend to focus more on the negative behaviors that are taken away from the culture or the environment that we do want in the classroom. So, and then when I started focusing on saying, excellent job, like just focusing on what I do want, it was really weird to me. It was like uncomfortable because I never really focused on that. I focused too much on the negative behaviors because that's what got my attention and that's what I didn't want. So I kept addressing those things. But by focusing on the students that are doing their part, that are supposed to be doing it, you're helping reinforce them and acknowledging that they're doing the right thing. Because a lot of times you might have kids that are doing their work and you don't pay attention to them because they're doing what you want. So make sure you praise people for what they're doing and acknowledge them. But I'm going to probably just end this video here, just to want to introduce the conversation of reward systems. And if you like this video and you want to hear more content, like and subscribe, leave a comment, and I can make some more videos to give you more details about this idea. But I just want to kind of introduce it and just to see what your thoughts were. All right, I'm Ramon Torres, the educator of School Your Brain, and I'll see you next time.